Hello, good evening and welcome there to another TVTF. Yes, it's back. The show that we all used to know and love, I hope love, about Transformers. And yeah, I think we will crack straight on with it this time because we don't have any other business to sort of delve into. Other than the fact that, yeah, obviously we're going to be doing Joe Video Transformers, Joe Transformers, and possibly whatever in between if I feel like it. So we shall crack straight on because you are here to see Generation 1 Spinister, who is one of my favourite Transformers ever. Why is he one of your favourite Transformers ever, Glenn? Well, I shall tell you. I think it's because I have a love affair of all sort of 1988, 89, 90 Transformers anyway. The late period was the most colourful, in many ways the most innovative, and they were using toys that they were designing themselves at that time rather than using older toys that they just recoloured. So there was a bit of pretty much similar to what goes on today. You know, there was new engineering going on. There were new ways to transform them. And although some of them might have been quite simple, and he is hideously simple, as we shall find out. But I like the fact that they were taking risks with what they looked like, with the forms and with the transformations and with the alt modes, and certainly with the colours. You know, they were sort of discovering new ways to put neon paint in everything, and they sort of went a bit mad with it for a little while. Plus also, you know, the tech specs, they waned off towards the end, but in the late 80s they sort of got a bit more intricate and a little bit more interesting. Sort of darker elements came into them rather than just saying, oh, well, Blue Stick talks a lot. But even at their worst, even 1990s Action Master ones are still better than Autobot Ratchet is an Autobot. You know, trilingual tech specs do not work, Hasbro. Not that you're listening, of course. But Spinister was a late era. I think it was a sort of 88 sort of Master Force era, if we want to call it that, Transformer. Not that he was in Master Force, because none of the Double Target Masters were. The Headmaster Juniors, or the tinier Headmasters were, which I also love, obviously. But these guys weren't in it, which is a shame, I feel, but I kind of understand why. In fact, they didn't get much media presence anywhere. Pretty much the only place you can see Spinister is in comic books. He was in the Marvel Transformers run, where he was in the Mayhem Attack Squad. He did play second fiddle to Thunderwing a lot. He did have his doubts. He was one of the few Decepticons that had his doubts. Not that he said anything. He'd seen what happened to Ruckus. Basically, Ruckus was punched clear across the room and then demoted and treated like poop for the rest of the expedition. But Thunderwing was going crazy with Matrix Lust at this time, and Spinister saw this, and Spinister didn't like it one little bit. So much so that when Thunderwing was finally defeated by the Autobots, he kind of had a hand into it, and he surrendered almost straight away, saying, "We've had enough bloodshed. We don't need any more." So he gave up pretty quickly. So I think Thunderwing sort of ripped the heart out of Spinister and his Decepticon loyalties, because he didn't really want to fight anymore by the end of the Matrix quest. Not that you saw him ever again, because I think you vaguely saw him in the Unicron battle right at the end of the Marvel run. But yeah, that was about it really. He has been seen again. He did survive the battle. He is in the Regeneration 1 ongoing, and he basically sided with Soundwave. He seems to crop up wherever Soundwave is. Hasn't done much yet, really, but I'm sure he will. I'm certain that he will. He was in the Dreamwave books in the Armada comics. Didn't really do much. I think the place where he's really sort of not shone, but sort of started to get a bit interesting is IDW, as most Transformers seem to get interesting in IDW. He was in it for a bit. I think he had a hand in destroying Dreadwind at some point. But he's mainly cropped up in the story where the DJD try and retake Fulcrum and try and capture him. And because Fulcrum's aligned to the little gang of Decepticons, including Croc, etc., he gets put on the list for the DJD, as it were. Fulcrum believed dead by the DJD, not in no small part to Spinister. Fulcrum is one of many Transformers who were made to transform into bombs, basically. Basically, they're suicide bombers. So they would jump out of planes, Decepticon planes, and destroy everything that they hit. Spinister had the foresight to remove Fulcrum's detonators so that he couldn't actually explode. But Spinister in IDW, portrayed as not only quiet and mysterious, like he's supposed to be in his tech specs, but basically stupid. He's mute. Now, whether he is or not, I don't think anybody knows. He's certainly portrayed that way, but whether that's an act or not, I think we have to see. It could be that he's just playing sort of the Richard Keel Jaws type, where he's a big guy who just says nothing. Lets people think that he's stupid and assume that he's stupid, but in fact he knows what's going on. He's pulling the strings. I don't know. He could be an idiot savant for all we know, but I'm sure we will find out. Other than that, he doesn't appear anywhere. He's in no cartoons to speak of, and I don't think he ever will be, sadly, because obviously Generation 1 doesn't have a cartoon anymore. So I wouldn't imagine that he pops up anywhere, which is a shame. But there you go. Onto the toy itself. Now, Spinister transforms into a very modified Apache. I'm sure it's an AH-64 helicopter. Apache's very, very cool. They're the first thing you see and the last thing you see before you die, basically. Last thing you see will be this. And apparently that's it. As people who come up against Apaches are wont to say. Obviously, heavily modified because of the colours. It was the late 80s, people. They liked their neon paint. I have said that before. Not so much neon, but certainly brightly coloured. And he comes with his 2 Targetmaster pals, who we shall have a look at now. Now, these weren't really promoted as such anywhere, especially their fiction. You know, they tend not to appear anywhere in fiction. They tend just to pop up as guns. But you do have 2 of them, and they are quite natty. They're sculpted plastic detail with 1 hinge, which I don't mind because it means it's very less likely to break, and if they do, it doesn't really matter. But the hinge just goes pop, and that's their transformation done. You've got 2 of them. You have, firstly, Singe. Now, Singe is basically a jock, sort of a Nebulon jock, who really, really, really liked Lyra, who's Galen's girlfriend. Galen obviously became the male component, the head component for Fortress Maximus before Spike Witwicky in the comics. He really loved Lyra. Obviously, she was Galen's girlfriend, devoted to Galen. And so Singe joined up with the Decepticons to basically get him out of the way, to kill him off, and take Lyra's hand. Sadly, Galen died before he could take him out, and because Lyra is completely devoted to Galen, even in death, then this guy basically shit out. So he's very, very depressed and lonely about that all the time, which Spinister apparently takes the mickey out of him. And this guy gets annoyed at him for it. Hairsplitter. Hairsplitter is the ultimate bureaucrat. He is sort of basically a Nebulon civil servant who likes dotting the I's and crossing the T's perhaps a bit too much. So he won't even take a shot until he thinks that the right forms have been processed. Because of this, everybody hates him. Nobody likes the guy at all. They think he's a bit of a douche. They think he's too pernickety. And they would very much like him out of the way, including Spinister and Singe, who keep trying to kill him off. Speaking of Spinister, here is the big guy himself. I say an Apache A64, I think it is, helicopter. Very nicely detailed. I mean, if he was black, he'd be very accurate. The only thing that makes him not accurate is the bright colours. But like we've said before, it was the late 80s. And the late 80s liked their bright colours. Now, he does have a few functioning parts in this mode. Obviously, the front rotor goes there. The back rotor, very mobile indeed. Very nice. And he even has working wheels, which, for the time period, is quite strange. Normally, this hinge piece here, that would serve as a wheel, you would think. Certainly the late 80s era toys. But for some reason, they do have working wheels on this thing, and it's all the better for it. It makes the toy sort of seem complete, seem finished, and who doesn't like that? Sadly, it's a helicopter. There's not much to talk about really, but never mind. How to transform him? Well, basically, you take his rotors, you put him to the back there, I'll put him there for the moment. You pull the black pits on there up. I don't know what you would call them. And then you take his legs, or what will become his legs, which is the front cockpit there, and you push them up, push them around, and there you have his legs. You can then pull these bits to the back, where they sit rather nicely there. And then you pull his waist around to complete that section. Now these bits at the back here, they do pop out, like so. Number 1, number 2. And if you turn him around, there basically are his arms. You do have the fists in the back cubby hole. You pull them out and they click into place, which is nice. And they're not floppy at all. This is a really good condition toy, is this one. I'm very, very lucky to have this one. And then finally, you take his whole back assembly, that comes down. And just becomes this great big piece of kibble on his back. But it's not too bad because, you know, it's out of the way. And then you turn his face around and his face, well, just look at that Fizzog. That's great. Loving that. The problem with these toys is that they're very highly detailed. And they put some great effort into the faces on these. And it's the same with the G2. But then they just put his face all in one colour, which is turquoise there. There's no light piping to speak of whatsoever. And it's a shame that they sort of spend all that time sculpting it and then just go, ah, turquoise, that'll do. Another great thing about this toy is it does have quite a good articulation for the time. His head does go around, it goes around 360, obviously. His arms, again, go around 360, which is nice. And he does have a waist swivel. I mean, it is part of the transformation, but it's there, you know? Sadly, his legs, all one piece. But you will find that of the time that all the leg pieces were one piece and they couldn't move independently of each other. But that's the way it goes with these toys. They were trying to save money. Because that never happens. Now, the Double Targetmasters, they can be wielded as dual pistols, which is great. Like so. But I like to have him in a rifle configuration. And the way you do it is, now, if I remember correctly, you have a head splitter like that. Singe has a hole at the back where that post goes into, and there you have a rifle. Because the whole thing fits very nicely into Spinister's hand there. So he has a nice rifle with a nice stock to put in his shoulder there, and he can shoot things rather nicely. I do love the Double Targetmasters. They are pretty cool, really nicely cool toys, and they're, you know, at least the Targetmaster component doesn't break very easily, which is obviously the case with a lot of the older Targetmasters. Their legs do break off a lot, and they cost a lot of money to replace. So it's nice to have something that's a bit sturdier in these versions of the toys. But Spinister there we go. Very nice toy. I do recommend you pick him up if you can. I found him to be about 20-30 quid sometimes. It depends what condition you want him in. Do be careful, because some people will sell the Targetmaster components separately, which I don't think is on. But you know, you make your money however you can, I suppose. But yeah, there's Spinister. Very good toy. Really nice character. It's a shame he's not being used in more things, but that's true of 90% of the Transformers, to be fair. Most Transformers reviews you will see sometimes concentrate on the toy only, because it's not worth mentioning the media they've been in, because they've been in no media. But there you go. That's it from me for this time, but I shall be back around the bend with another G.I. Joe review. Don't quite know what I'm doing yet. I think it could be this. It could be this. It could be the Ram Cycle. I'm thinking. Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. We shall see. But I shall be back very, very soon, within the next week or so, I would imagine. Until then, this is Glenn, stroke Dreadwind, stroke whatever the hell else I'm known on the internet. G.I. Jew, I don't know. But it's me saying bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.